My son was born, he was the first son born on my side of the family, and he was the first son born to carry the family name on my husband's side, and so I call him Prince Mickey. When he was 20 years old, he had a car wreck which hurt his back. And about the same time he met a girl, and they had a child. So he has a child. She was born, and she's my only grandchild. And he loved her, he loved the family. The wreck that I told you about, it left him with a back injury. And he would go and see different doctors, and he got pain medicine from the doctors throughout the years. So for the past 14 years, he had to have pain medicine. He only actually had 2 different doctors throughout the whole time period. But for a long time, he was under one doctor's care. And the pills, he would get more and more of the medicine. And then he could no longer get medicine from that doctor. In between, till he found the second doctor, he would get pills from other people. And then he found another place, and he was able to get pills from that place up until about maybe a year ago. And then they stopped giving him pills, but they had rules, and he came in and he had gotten pills from somewhere else, so they wouldn't give it to him anymore. Between the 2 doctors, I found out that he was getting medicine illicitly from someone in town that was actually had like a prescription, or knew somebody that had a prescription, and then they would sell it to him. And I found that out, and I think that's when we, encouraged him to go back to find a doctor to get under care, and, to try to, and of course I've tried to discuss doing rehab with him and everything, but was never able to convince him to do so. He always thought that he was going to be okay, he would be fine, because he could actually go through DTs, and he would be fine for a while, and then he would go back. I mean, you can always tell when he might be back, on pills, because his moods would change, But I never knew. I mean, he was grown. He lived in my home, and I thought that by him living in my home, that I was protecting him, keeping him from being out there, and hopefully, that would help him. But ultimately, it did not. About a month before he passed, I talked to him about fentanyl, because I had just barely started learning about it. And he promised me that he knew. He's like, I know, I can tell the difference. Mom, I know about this, basically, And he actually had gone through one of those moments of, doing the DTs pretty much around that time. I mean, he was actually working on it, and I was going to talk to him again about recovery. And that was in May, and in June the 15th of 2022, I was at work. He was supposed to go with my husband that day, and took off work. And so my husband said that he's sleeping in, And then he went to go wake him, and he was unconscious. And so my husband had to start doing CPR on him. And he called me. My husband, when the paramedics got there, he called me and let and I was in a meeting and got a message on my phone, and it was my husband, and he was like, just yelling that, Mickey was gone, and he couldn't bring him back, and to call, please call, please call. So when I called, my husband didn't even answer the phone. My brother-in-law did, and told me that the paramedics were working on my son and that they thought he had OD'd. And sure enough, they weren't able to revive him. About a month later, we got a call from a local judge that knew us, and she told my husband that toxicology report came back and that it was fentanyl. The local crime investigation officer had left a card with my husband and said that, that they would be investigating. They took his phone, they took any paraphernalia that was in the home. But we never heard anything after that. In November, the DEA was here. We had the summit, and I got a hold of the DEA officer that was in charge of, because I'm from Amarillo, and he found out that the initial investigation had been closed, but there had been one opened by the DEA, and now it's still open. What I say is that if there's a parent out there that has a son or daughter that's anything like my son, they need to get educated. They need the education's out there. You just have to look for it. They need to get educated, and even if it's the person that's like my son, or if you know anybody that's like my son, or you are like my son, get help. If somebody offers you help, take it. If they don't offer it, look for it and get educated, because right now the biggest defense we have is education, is learning more. And if you're somebody that doesn't relate to my story or my son's story, still keep watching these videos, because you're going to run into somebody that you do relate to. That's the sad part.